Dude,
We are live.
I discovered the cure to brain freezes. Like
Jesse's
cure
discovered the cure.
Doctors don't know shit. Samurai figured it out.
We're live. What's going on, everybody? Jesse is going to
I know you tuned in for woodworking, but I'm about to revolutionize your life and cure you of all brain freezes from this moment forward, okay? So this is how a brain freeze works, okay?
Yep.
I heard this from a doctor, so it's right. So when you drink a cold drink, right, a lot of people think, oh, the cold goes through the roof of your mouth and freezes your brain. No, it doesn't, dumbass. Because above the roof of your mouth is your nasal cavity and then your brain. So the cold does not go through the roof of your mouth like some people think. What happens is when you're drinking the cold fluid, it goes down your throat and you have blood arteries that are along the side of your throat that go to your brain. And if it gets too cold, those arteries begin to spasm and contract and prevent the blood flow from getting to your brain. And so you get a brain freeze.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, so one way to combat brain freeze, obviously drink your drink slower. But when you're sweating your bag off on a hot day, like it's been crazy hot out here, 41 degrees, we're breaking records here in Canada. You need to get this ice down to cool yourself off. So swishing it around in your mouth until most of the slushiness melts helps. But I find I still get a brain freeze. Now, the other way to combat brain freeze, cough. How simple is that? Try it. I guarantee it works. There's something to do with the cough that it like forces your blood vessels to either constrict or like pump the blood. But if you like force yourself to cough, right as you feel the brain freeze coming on, all of a sudden it just stops it dead in its tracks.
So in a world where we've recently been taught not to cough or sneeze in public, Dr. Samurai is prescribing.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. Brain freezes hurt. You pull your mask down, you take a swig, and you just go. It doesn't matter where you are, you'll cure that brain freeze. You might get arrested for coughing in public, but you won't have a brain freeze.
There you go. Love it.
Okay, just bless your life. Happy Canada Day.
Well, there we go. This is welcome to the live. If you're just joining us, you missed some brilliant advice or prescription or whatever you want to call it from Dr. Samurai regarding brain freezes. We're going to do a quick touch in here, get an update from Jesse what's going on with his property. We'll do some Q&A in a little bit and just hang out.
Going live tomorrow. Another episode
of the Samurai Off-Grid Adventures. And
the Off-Grid Samurai, come on. That's our tagline here. The Off-Grid Samurai.
I'm going to call it whatever I want.
Well, I'm just saying, if we stick with a theme, it's easier for people to follow along.
Okay. Well, maybe we could get a more creative name than...
Off-Grid Samurai. Like, how badass is that? It doesn't get much more badass.
Okay. Comment if you're watching. Do you think that is a legitimate front runner for a name for the Samurai, or should we do better?
A t-shirt, Off-Grid Samurai, and it'll be like me, like holding up a chainsaw, like a silhouette above it. Like that would look sweet.
I don't know. Let the people talk. They can vote. Comment if you think that's a good idea. So Jesse, what's happening up at the property? We've got this video coming out tomorrow, which is focused on you making.
You guys, I'm back doing woodworking. Imagine that. I know I've been doing boat stuff for so long, and all you guys are like, oh, I'm sad. You're not doing what I want you to do anymore. But guess what? I still love to woodwork, and I build, in this next video, you will see me build a beautiful timber frame shitter. Outhouse. Throne room. The throne room.
Yes.
So I built a little timber frame privy, and boated that out there and put it together with my boys helped me. It was pretty awesome. Super hot. And I got some of the siding done. I needed to finish that up this weekend and get a door on it. But the structure's up. There's a tar paper roof on it. I have the metal roof up there, and I'm going to get that hopefully installed as well. And then we're going to move on to building my little tool shed / bunkie. So I'm building a little 10 by 10 shed out there, and it's going to be beautiful as well. with timber frame joinery. So all of you guys that have been missing your Samurai woodworking fix don't need to worry. Okay, it's coming.
It's coming.
I can do off grid and still be a woodworker at the same time.
Yeah. So if you guys are patient enough, well, you have to be patient because that video is not coming out until tomorrow. You can see all that. You prefabbed it in your shop, correct?
Yeah. So I built the frame in the shop just because I got all the tools set up and it's way more efficient. And then I took it up there, assembled it, built a little some little rock. I just set it on rocks. Like I dug some holes, filled them with gravel, packed them down, put some boulders on top, and then scribed the floor onto the rocks, and then built the timber frame on top of that. And then got the 1x8 kind of board and batten siding. I got all the 1x8 on, but I'm just working on the battens, and then I'm going to build a little door. I'm going to do a Dutch door. Okay. So you might think, why would you put a Dutch door on a outhouse? Well, the view is epic from this throne. Okay. So I was like, I don't want to open up this door and go inside, even though the timber frame is gorgeous. Like you're sitting in there and it's beautiful. There's joinery all around you. I put these live edge arbutus slabs, like curving slabs on the side that I'm going to drill some dowels in for like towel hangers and stuff, because I'm sure people will use it as a change room as well.
You can see it in the background of the photo there. That's as close as you're getting to.
Yeah, it's kind of
tees there.
Tees are in there, and then so I want to do a Dutch door because it's kind of up on a hill a little bit, but it's looking over like the camp and where eventually the cabin's going to go. And so, people might glance up at the pooper and they don't want you just sitting there with the door wide open. That's just not classy. But you don't want to sit inside this little wood box when there's just a gorgeous water and mountain view directly in front of you. So if I build a Dutch door, you have the bottom half of the door closed, which is giving you privacy and covering all your giblets. But you can still see out the top and take in the view. So let's just say I'm really happy about this outhouse, and having used it already, it's probably it's the best place I've ever had a movement.
Hey, we've been on some there was one on the Sayward Lakes that was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, no, and that's what I know. I'm not saying that lightly, because I've deuced in some epic locations. But this is like top tier. This is top tier place to take it out.
So to quote your son, I texted you this the other day because when I was going through the footage, it was really funny. You can kind of hear it quietly in the video. So if you're watching, pay attention when it's being assembled. I think it was Logan said, "There's going to be a roof so people can poop even when it's raining."
Even when it's raining.
He's like, so people can poop even when it's raining.
Exactly. Like we've covered all the bases.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be out in the woods squatting while it's raining. It's
yeah. Fun. So heat wave. Did you get anything done? I don't know if people are tuning in from all over the world, but where we are in BC, Canada, has been like record-setting heat wave. We were up to it was like
44 or something like that. Not in Victoria. I think it was 44. We're up in Port Alberni because it's actually hotter up where my property is. It's in this little valley, and it's kind of like it just gets really hot in the summertime.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were like 42 or 44 or something like that.
Which is like 100. What is that? 108 or something like that.
And some of you people, I get it. You live in that like year round because your brains don't work. But up here, we're not prepared for that kind of heat. Okay, it's so bad. Like we're used to 25 Celsius. 30, we're all like, we start complaining at 30. Okay, so it was over 40, and people were just losing their ever loving mind. Like, yeah. It was bad.
There was igloos melting everywhere. Yeah, tons of Canadians lost their igloos.
Yeah, the sleds weren't working. Nothing. It was brutal.
It was terrible.
So
yeah, all over the West Coast. I see David saying Seattle 112. Like Seattle. Washington and Oregon were hit too. Like just like crazy. So you didn't. I'm assuming you didn't get a lot of work done in that heat.
Honestly, it was crazy. Just from the boat, getting off the boat and like walking up about 20 feet in elevation to get up to the kind of flat part of the property, it was like a 10-degree difference. Like you could feel the heat. Like every step you took away from the boat, it was like, oh my God, it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And then you get up and you're like, throw all your gear down. And it was like, I gotta get back in the water. And you like run down, like dive in the water, and your shirt would be dry in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I was just jumping in like fully clothed just because it was like keeping me cool and keeping me from like burning to death. So it was nice. It was great to be on the lake, but I did not get much done. It was like I'd go up and I'd start to work and I'd be like, I can't think straight. I gotta go swimming. And so yeah, I just kind of gave up after a while.
Yeah. I know there was actually a forest fire up in that area. Did you hear about that, or was that close to you?
Really? No.
In Port Alberni, yeah, the other day. Couple acres, right? It said Sprout Lake Fire Department.
Wow.
Was there. So
sheesh.
Maybe want to look into that.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Well, forest fire came through that whole property 5 years ago. The whole mountain is burnt.
Yeah, because there was an interview of a lady saying, like, yeah, she said 2 or 3 years ago there was a fire up on the hillside there, so she was referring to something recent.
That's why I'm trying to clear as much of the dead wood on the ground as possible, because and I'm like, I want to go back as far as I can up the property, away from the shoreline, and clear all the dead wood, because it's literally like tinder. There's just like, might as well just be matchsticks all over the ground. There's so many small, like fallen trees, dead trees. So that's like my priority to hopefully this summer is just to clear as much wood as possible, which sucks because I've already got like huge burn piles that need to be burned. Yeah. And obviously I'm not burning in this weather.
Yeah, that's we got a question here from Kevin. He's asking how the provincial fire ban has affected your plans on cleaning up the property.
So,
have you thought of a chipper?
No, I haven't thought of a chipper.
There's some of those off-grid channels I've seen that they've gotten chippers and use that for like doing their gardening and stuff, putting down on pathways and gardens and stuff.
I could see that being useful. I don't know. Those things aren't cheap. To get a decent one, you got to pay like $5,000 or something, don't you?
Yeah, you could rent it.
Yeah, maybe that would be a lot of chipping. So yeah, the plan as of now is just to make as many big piles as possible, and then when the fall comes and the rains hit again, we will just light it all up then.
Maybe you could
find October or whatever.
Maybe you could get help from Dale. You get Chip and Dale up there. Oh, so good.
Fired. You are fired. Get out of there.
I know Kevin's gonna like that one. He likes cheesy jokes, I think.
The dad humor is strong with you.
Brutal. There was another question here. Up here.
Look at this crap, this soggy paper straw. Can you believe this junk?
Here is another question. We're just gonna roll into questions. This is just like a free for all time. If you got questions, throw them in the chat. We're just gonna chat about what's going on at the property for Jesse.
Oh, that's a good question.
There you go. What's the cost?
Just like the fuel cost or whatever to get there.
Yeah.
Right now it's not bad. Like I got my diesel truck, and it's only about a quarter tank each way. So in Canada, if you don't live in the US, we're the last place where you can get reasonable fuel costs. Here we pay. What are we tipping the scales at now? It's like $1.62, I think.
Yeah, I think it even went up
a liter. Yeah, that's the most recent one, I think. Okay. It was like $1.50, which was stupid already, and then it went up to like $1.62 a liter. So times that by 4, and you'll have your gallon price for you Americans. So that's like what, $7 a gallon or something like that.
It's ridiculous. Whatever.
That's what we pay here in Canada. So if you think it's getting out of control on the west coast of America at $3 or whatever you guys pay for a gallon, we're paying more than double.
Yeah,
just north of you, where we actually make a lot of the gas comes from Canada, but we still pay $7 for it a gallon. It's back when it was it only cost me $100 to fill up my tank, that would have been $25 each way, approximately $50 return trip. But it takes about 2.5 hours driving, plus the boat though. So the boat fuel probably adds, another. It's only about a 15-minute boat ride, so maybe, I don't know, another $10.
So do you have?
Depends on the boat that I'm using. If I'm using the skiff, it's obviously going to take a little bit more fuel. But yeah, I'm definitely shelling out a lot more gas money these days because my commute to the property is 2.5 hours in a truck and a trailer and a boat and all that sort of stuff. Whereas I used to just walk down my driveway and go into my shop. So
is your? I haven't been up to the property yet. Is your procedure to take the tinny up on a trailer every time to get over there?
Yeah, right now that's we've been trying to find a slip on the lake, but there's pretty much nothing available. I've even thought about going door to door because I'm like, some of these people have these really big docks that are just empty. I'm like, man, maybe I could just pay them monthly to leave my boat at their dock and park in their driveway. So yeah, I've just been taking my little 14-foot aluminum tinny, I call it, with a 20 horsepower on it, up and back, which is nothing to tow it. With the trailer, it maybe weighs like 600 pounds or something like that.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really affect the gas mileage too much. But it's a pretty rinky-dink little boat. You can put maybe 4 or 5 people in it and tiny bit of gear, and then it's pretty much that's all it can handle. So we're looking forward to getting a better runabout here, which we're going to be importing my father-in-law's boat from Seattle this month, hopefully. So then we'll have a 19-foot with a 150 Yamaha outboard on it, and that'll be a much more reliable runabout to be able to get back and forth. But we're going to try and store that one somewhere up near the lake, like at a storage place if we can't find a slip for it. That way I can just park it at a storage place and then just drive home, pick it up, launch it, kind of a thing. A little bit more logistics, but save on gas and potential, trailering troubles that you would have. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
If you're making trips up and down the island and you're towing trailers, which I probably will be most of the time, like I'm taking a huge timber order up this weekend. Got a buddy of mine, one of the Makers Mob members, who came to my first timber framing workshop, and we've become good friends. Since then, he lives in Vancouver. He's coming over, and he's going to come help me out of the property. And,
oh, nice.
And so it'll be awesome to have an extra set of hands because my flipping buoy that I put out with 300-pound concrete anchors is drifting. My neighbor sent me another picture of the boat, and it's like up against his log jam again. And I'm like, are you kidding me? 300 pounds of concrete couldn't hold that boat in one spot. Like the wind picks up really good there. So wow. I'm getting an education, let me tell you, on how to how to not, tie up your boat properly and stuff. So yeah, three 5-gallon pails I filled with concrete and put eye bolts in them, and I chained them all together and dropped them to the bottom with a big 3/4-inch rope and shackle and some chain and a buoy to be able to leave my skiff out there because I don't have a dock set up yet. And I was like, oh, finally we've got a reliable thing. And then my neighbor sends me a pic. He's like, when are you coming up again? Your boat's tangled up in our log boom or whatever. And he's like, it's not going anywhere, but he sent me out. So I was just like,
oh gosh.
So I need to go up there and rescue my boat and untangle the lines from their log jam line or their log boom. Because everybody up there has a log boom. Another thing that I have to figure out how to do is the wind picks up really good every couple of days, comes just directly down the valley at us, and kicks up some pretty good waves. And so that's just going to destroy my dock and smash the boat to the dock and all that sort of stuff. So I need to put a bunch of logs. Everybody kind of has a log boom about 100 feet offshore where they link a bunch of logs together with their chains and anchor them down, and that kind of breaks the waves as they come at you. And so the water on the inside of the log boom where your boat and dock are stays a lot calmer, kind of a thing, right? So so that's another thing I got to figure out how to do, because I don't really have any trees that are big enough. You need some pretty big suckers, like 3-foot diameter logs to be able to break the waves. And so there's some logging companies and like kind of bridge building companies that will have access to that. So I'm just trying to make some contacts and source some logs so that I can stretch them out in front of my property, and then I'll have a little bit of a sheltered cove area where the waves and the wind, and then if my boat does get loose, it'll at least be stuck inside the log boom and not just like drift off down the lake. So anyways, the stress level and the logistics I'm still getting schooled here pretty good on
you're learning, and that's great.
That's what it's all about. I'm a glutton for punishment when it comes to that sort of stuff.
So we got a bunch of questions coming in here, so let's try and fire through some of these guys. We'll go back here a bit, and here's one that's not property related, but can anyone tell me how I'd go about making a draw leaf table? It'll be my first table. You want
a draw leaf table? So like a table with a leaf in it?
I would think so. Yeah. We don't have any tutorials for that. I don't think anyone's
done
a
specific angle for the runners. So that's the little pieces of wood that slide on each other. Because I know you can get hardware for that. I would probably look into that if I were you. I don't know where there would be a place to source that, but I'm pretty sure you can buy like hardware kits for draw leaves because they'll have like little metal tabs or whatever that help align everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess you could do it with wood and dowels and that sort of stuff. Essentially, I would try and make the angle, like if you're going to do like angled pieces of wood that kind of lock into each other and slide, I would try and do like the steeper the angle, the better. So like 45 degrees. I wouldn't go less than 30 maybe, because like if you have a smaller angle, like there's lift and more movement in it. So the steeper the angle, the more it kind of locks things into place. I
would say put it. I
mean, if you do like a tongue and groove runners, and then they're like actually locked in a channel as opposed to just like angled pieces.
Or dowels or dominoes, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something to align it. But Ivan, I think you remember the Makers Mob. So probably best bet would be to put it in the Facebook group. If you're not a part of that Facebook group, post that question, and there'll definitely be some people in there that'll be able to give you a better idea, and even Jesse can
as much as I like to punish myself doing things like figuring things out, there are certain times where I'll at least try and copy a table that I know of, right? So I've got like that table behind me is like a draw like leaf table that has hardware and stuff. So I would look underneath there, and then I would try and at least design, if I'm going to make it all out of wood, I would copy, the amount of runners, where they're placed, and at least on the first try and do that. Trying to mimic something that already works, like a functioning prototype, before you just go, I'm going to figure it out myself. It's like that's, you want to start with a certain base knowledge of how to make it work properly. What size is the whole property? So they're kind of narrow properties. It's a 5.5 almost acres. So it's about 150 feet wide, and it goes back like 600 and some feet back. So that would be what, 200 meters or something like that? 75 or no?
I have no idea.
We're from Canada. We use the metric system, but we
just
don't.
150 by 600, whatever. Good enough.
So we everything on paper with the government is all in metric, but we all still communicate in feet and inches, especially in the building trade.
Yeah.
So it's weird. We're still imperial, but we're not imperial.
Yeah.
So yeah, we all still do height in feet and weight in pounds, and it's just the weirdest thing. We're Canada. We're weird.
Mr. Fa.
Yeah, you can ask anything you want as long as it's woodworking related. We don't,
Yeah, anything.
Nothing political.
Nothing political.
We're keeping it safe here. This is a safe place.
It's a very safe place. Let's see here. What do we got? Here's a good one. So someone's asking about, oh, here we go. Sorry, I'm going to go back here. Is the stack of I Love Timber that you posted earlier today for your tool shed?
Good question.
You made a post today?
Yeah, I just put a post up on the Facebook group showing all the timber that I just ordered, all the yellow cedar.
Yeah.
You should see the beams. I'll post Kevin, I'll post a picture, a close up of the 6x12. At least one of them, the one that I can see that's kind of on the bottom of the pile, it's like clear on the one side anyways. Might have knots on the other side, but we're talking like 6 by 12 inches by 12 feet long, and it's just like perfect, like not a knot in it.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh, I got to put that beam like front and center somewhere. But I've ordered all that timber is for like the dock. I'm getting like an aluminum truss ramp, 24-foot truss ramp to go down from the land because the rock's a little bit higher. So it's kind of like a ramp that'll move. That's going to mount. And then there's there's like a 16-foot boardwalk kind of or ramp that will be built, or a deck that'll be built on top of the rock that the draw ramp will attach to. So it's essentially decking material, framing timbers for the decking and stairs to get up onto the property from the water. So yeah, all the timber for the dock, decking for the ramp, and then I think about 30 some feet of 6 foot wide timber boardwalks to get up onto the property. So
nice.
Got a lot of sawdust to make here in the next few weeks.
Docks and boardwalks coming up. Give us to your belt.
People are still hooked on my tool belt. Hey, honestly, like I got really close to getting that thing into production. Well, I wouldn't say really close. I made some progress, and then the whole COVID thing hit, and then
just was hard.
China manufacturing and just the stuff that's going on over in China, with like the genocide and just government stuff. I was like, I don't know if I feel good about having stuff manufactured overseas right now. And then with all the shipping and weird stuff, I was like, I'm not even gonna bother trying to get products from overseas right now. And then making them locally was just not feasible.
Do you have an in-depth?
I've got a couple videos on my YouTube channel. If you search Tool Vest on my YouTube channel, you should be able to pop up the 2 videos where I made my first one, and then I did a revised version where I changed a bunch of stuff to what I have it set up as now. Mm-hmm. But if you want, you can. There's a company in the United States called like Atlas 46 or something like that.
If you want a ripped off version
and
of the Samurai,
they ripped off my tool vest and basically made a ballistic nylon version of it, and with all the same features and design, and just basically hijacked my design shortly after I posted.
I think it even has a magnet in the back.
Yeah, you
right?
could even get a Velcro magnet attachment for the saw to go on your back and everything. Like they just China'd me. They just stole my intellectual property and were like, hey, if you can't manufacture it, we can. And so, yeah, I think it's like the Stratos open core tool vest or something like that.
I love how they ripped you off and you're promoting it and trying to sell it.
Well, I feel for people because I understand what it's like to not have a good tool system, to not have a good tool belt, or to suffer from white man no butt syndrome, where you can't keep a tool belt on your hips because you got no ass and it just hangs down, and you got to have suspenders and all that sort of stuff, right? So yeah, my tool vest solved a lot of those problems, but I just can't get it to market, and other people obviously are. So I'm just like, hey, if you're really hurting, there are tool vests out there that mimic mine to a T. Yes, Alan, I am planning on building a cabin. So the zoning on the property allows for up to a 1,600 square foot cabin. So keep in mind, it's all off grid. There's no road access and there's no power to the property. So you got to boat in and boat out and create your own power, your own water, your own everything. So the zoning allows for up to a 1,600 square foot cabin, and then up to a 430 square foot auxiliary building or shed or extra cabin, I guess. I haven't talked with the the municipality to get more details yet, because I haven't really started building or haven't even started drawing up plans. But that's what I'm going to be doing kind of in the fall, once we have a little bit more infrastructure in place and a tool shed and a place where I can keep some stuff. And we're going to be setting up a little gravity feed water system. And so I'm getting some big water jug tote things. And I'm going to take those up onto the hillside and make a gravity feed water system. And then I got a fire pump that I'm going to hook up with a water line so that I can pump water from the lake, which is really super clean. The lake water is just beautiful. You can see like 30 feet right down to the bottom, like crystal clear. And like 2,500 people or whatever on the lake drink the water right out of the lake. So I'm going to pump the water up with my fire hose pump that you guys probably saw in the last couple videos, because I've already got that pump, and I was like, be pretty easy to just hook up an ABS pipe to that. So I got a little adapter for the fire hose connection, and then I'm going to hook that to an ABS 1.5 inch ABS pipe and just run that up the hill to where these big water, I think they're 250 or 300 gallon tanks, 300 gallon tanks. So 600 gallons or 2,400 liters or something like that. So a fair amount of water. Mm-hmm. And then it'll be about 30 to 40 feet above where the cabin's going to be. So that'll have a pretty good pressure, because I think it's like 1 PSI for every 2.5 feet of elevation or something like that. And I think like your house is about 40 PSI out of the tap or something like that. So it'll be close to like, typical water pressure, if I can get it high enough up on the property. So that'll be some fun kind of logistical stuff. Getting the tanks up there, I've already cut a little switchback trail to get up there. So I just have to flatten it out so that we can haul these big. They're about 4 foot by 4 foot. They're like those big fluid totes. I know anybody in the off-grid world has probably heard of them. They have like a kind of a metal cage around them. They're for like transporting fluids. These ones were used for like hand sanitizer. So they're sanitary. They had nothing but pure alcohol in them. But they've all been cleaned out or whatever. And so I'm getting a good deal on 2 of those. And then I'm going to take them up. Hey, Dave, how's it going? Oh, I just got back to BC. Hey, join the Makers Mob. I know everybody wants to get in on it free, but it's just the easiest way to be able to access myself and communicate with me, because we have our Facebook group, and then we also have we have our online site where you can ask questions if you're not into Facebook. But it's the easiest way to get direct messages through to me. And then that's how we set up any kind of like work weekends where people want to come out just for a weekend, check out the property, get a little taste of the off-grid style of living, see what kind of work is involved, or they just want to come operate a chainsaw and hang out with me for a weekend. So that's where we kind of organize things. So I'm going to be doing hopefully some work weekends coming up where we're all just going to camp out on the property for the weekend. And I was thinking like Men with Saws weekend, something like that.
Men with Saws.
Everybody brings up a chainsaw, and we just buck wood and sit around the fire and have a good time. So that's the easiest way to get involved, is to join the Makers Mob, and then you can see real time what I'm up to, when I'm going up to the property. And then if you want to join, you can say, hey, I can meet you so-and-so, and we can pick you up, or you can meet at the boat launch at the lake, and we can organize all that sort of stuff and go back and forth. Yeah. So that's the easiest way.
If you want to join Makers Mob, there is a link in the description. So it's that easy.
What kind of plans do you have for the rear area
of the property? Not
I'm going to say
the rear area.
The rear area of the property, right? It's a little vague. It's a little vague.
That's kind of a vague question.
Well, I got plans for the rear area. All right.
Let's end this.
I've been drinking this Froster a little too much.
John.
A little too much slushy here.
Rear of the property.
Unofficial plans would be this new app has come out. Have you guys heard of it? It's called Hip Camp. And It's basically VRBO, but for camping. So if you have a property, you can just let people come and camp on your property and just charge them camping rates. And I thought that would be kind of cool. So one idea I have right now is to build a couple tent platforms or just clear out some camping areas just up, because there's like the property kind of goes up from the water. There's a bit of a shelf, and then there's another kind of rock bluff, and then it flattens out for quite a ways after that. Still kind of forested and rocky terrain, but a lot easier to walk. And so I was like, oh, there's kind of like a cool area up there on this bluff that would look right over top of the cabin, and still have really beautiful lake views and mountain views through the trees. And so I was like, oh, it'd be cool to build a couple tent platforms so that, you know, people could come and camp out for a weekend or whatever, and
guest camping,
that sort of stuff. So that might be the thing. And then maybe down the road, make little cabins or something like that I could rent out for people and have people come and have a little samurai experience, bring their lady, you know, and she can enjoy yoga by the water while we play with saws and cut some timbers, you know.
Why not?
So I'm trying to think of it like a adventure woodworking tourism. What they got all these cool terms, right? It's like ecotourism and whatever for like people that are into different stuff. We got to come up with one that's like woodworking tourism. What's like how do we blend woodworking or like timber framing with like tourism? What's like how do we mash those together? We should come
apprentice for a day.
No. It's got to be like something tourism. So it's like a mainline kind of term. Wood tourism. That's kind of meh. It's got to be more attractive than that.
I think Kevin McCann is going to come up with something for us there. Kevin, come up with a name for us.
Jake, good question. So there's 4 lots, and that's pretty much it on the whole side of the lake. The rest is just forestry land, crown land, or whatever. So they're just 4 lots. So I've just got 1 neighbor on one side and 2 neighbors on the other side. So I'd love to have no neighbors, but at the same time, I'm like, these neighbors are really cool because they're the kind of people that buy off-grid boat-in access properties and build stuff themselves. So they're the one neighbor that I've met is the only other neighbor that's building right now. They've been building out there for 3 years with a couple different families all went in on the property, and they're all awesome. They're all like entrepreneurial type people that just get it done and are, you know, really cool to hang out with. And so I've been asking them all sorts of questions and getting all sorts of information on how they did stuff and overcame all these issues. And they're doing a much like bigger build because there's several families involved. So I'm going to be doing it a lot more low key with composting toilets and more like work with the land as opposed to like try and like build some giant facility. But they're awesome people so far. I haven't met one of the other neighbors on the other side of them, and then I haven't even met the one neighbor to my side yet. He comes in on his boat and kind of looks at his property, and he's got part of a log boom in place, and then he's going to be putting a dock in, and then hopefully once he has a dock in, he's got a real fancy boat, so he doesn't beach it or like get off the boat every time he comes, and I like kind of wave to him, and he doesn't really look over me, so I think he's kind of a keep to himself kind of guy. But I've heard from the other neighbors who know him that he's a real cool guy. So
nice.
So far, I've got good neighbors, which is awesome. And then the other neighbors are just the birds and the bees and all the animals. Haven't seen any bears yet, but lots of deer.
Mr. Foss says, my question is twofold. Say I'm installing Euro hinges for inset application. I think this is a question for me, Jesse.
Probably. I'm like Euro hinges.
Yeah. Should I mark the location to drill, taking in account the edge banding or trim around the door? Yes. So I was the cabinet maker for quite some time, so I can answer this. Yes, absolutely. Take into consideration the edge banding thickness. If it's like a 3 millimeter edge banding, most of the times those inset hinges are about 3 millimeters from the edge to the start of the hole. So always take in account that edge banding material, especially if it's thicker.
It's so thin though, isn't it? It's typically like 30-second.
It's typically from the edge of the door.
It's a mil.
From the edge of the door, it's 3 mils usually to the actual start of the hole of that door. So if you're adding edge banding that's like thin, like a really thin edge banding, then it's not going to make much of a difference. But if it's like, you can do like a 3 mil edge banding. Some people do like a thick like actually glue on like a 3 mil or 1/4 inch stick of wood on the edge of a door, you definitely want to consider that. So hope that clarifies that. And what do we got? How do you anchor the logs in the water?
Oh, Denver.
Denver heat. Hide.
I'm still trying to figure that out because I just got a picture from my neighbor
How shouldn't you?
showing my boat tangled up in his log boom because I set my buoy out there and it either had too much slack in the rope and it's just like drifted over into the neighbor's log boom, but it was like 60 some feet away from it when we set the buoy. And so I'm like, oh, so it's either dragged the 300-pound concrete anchors that I put down there, or I didn't use enough. So
Kevin says that when the waves come, it drags it and then lifts it up and then it relocates it. So
I guess so. So I just didn't use a big enough anchor. So my next attempt at anchoring a mooring buoy, and what I would also use maybe for my dock, because I'm going to have to anchor the corners of my dock because it's a floating dock, not built on piles or anything like that. I'm going to do a garbage can full of concrete. I got two like 32 gallon like brute plastic garbage cans up there. I'm going to put one on the boat, and I'm just going to take the wheelbarrow down there and hand mix a bunch of concrete and just fill the freaking garbage can up with concrete.
Just push
stuff a bit of rebar in there and a big eye bolt, and inch that thing over to the edge of the boat and just boom, drop a concrete block the size of a garbage can in. So the other thing that people are doing on the lake, and there's a big kind of pile driving barge, and on the back of the barge, I drove by it. It was over at the other end of the lake. At the back of the barge, they have a huge dock with those giant concrete blocks, like the retaining wall ones that you see on the side of highways.
Yeah.
So they're like 4 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot thick, solid blocks of concrete. And it sits on the middle of the dock, and then they have a trap door that just drops, and it boom, drops it wherever you want. And so I'm like, I might have to talk to him and see how much that costs. But I'm like, how would that not cost like over $1,000?
How many bags of ready mix are you going to use in a garbage can?
A lot. For a bucket one, just a 5-gallon bale, it was 2 bags of concrete, right?
It's going to be like 12 to 15. 12?
Yeah, I got 20 bags of concrete in the back of my truck that I'm taking up there right now. So we're going to pour some footings, and then whatever we have left, we're just going to put it in a garbage can.
Crazy.
So I'm learning all sorts of stuff, but the water is definitely testing my skills real hard here. So once I have a dock that doesn't float away with the wind, I'll be a lot better shape for getting materials out there and doing some actual efficient building. But until then, I'm just fighting the weather and the water right now. But I'm loving it. I'm loving every minute.
Another question from Mr. Fott about the hinge. If they actually sell different hinges for thicker doors, so if it's a 22 millimeter door or 1 inch thick, there's actually a different hinge for a thick door that you can get. So the standard cabinet doors is made for 18 or 19 millimeter door, which is 3/4. If you try and use that with a thicker one, then the swing of it, it'll hit the edge of your face frame or the panel on the edge of the door. So you definitely want to get the thicker hinges for that.
You're just a wealth of knowledge. You don't even need me.
Well, when it comes to the cabinetry stuff,
you got it down.
I got it down.
I avoid cabinetry like the plague.
Hey, why you make less videos now?
I don't make less videos. I've always made the same amount of videos. I'm actually making more videos now than I did, except for like way back in the day when I used to do What's Up Wednesday and Free Tip Friday.
Yeah.
So yeah, the problem with a lot of people is that YouTube unsubscribes people or turns off the notifications, and so you don't ever hear that I'm making videos. But if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see that I've never stopped making videos. So I've been posting at least one every 2 weeks, or maybe one a month on my slow times. But the last month or so, we've been doing one every single week.
Yeah, last 2 months.
Friday.
Last 2 months, we probably had 6 or 7 videos.
So the videos have always been coming out. It's usually to do with the algorithm and YouTube unsubscribing people or thinking that you're not interested in my stuff anymore when you hopefully you're still
clearly
interested.
are.
So yeah, I still make videos. Just go to my channel and you'll see a whole ton of new videos that you probably haven't watched.
Yeah. Can you answer our questions, Jesse?
What question do you have, Adam? I'm trying to answer questions here.
We're answering questions.
30 foot high, 40 psi, 1 psi.
This isn't even a question,
I
Adam.
realize that, but I'm just saying it'll be close. Maybe it's 40 feet high. I don't know. I stood up on the rock and I was like, this is really high. It's like higher than the cabin will be, which is like 20 some feet, and it's way higher than that. So maybe it's 50 feet high. I don't even know.
It's so funny.
But I talked with my neighbor who runs a company that does like water pump systems. That's his job, to put pipes together and pump water and stuff. And he was doing the calculations, and he was like, yeah, you'll get some pretty good PSI if you're like up on top of that hill. Okay, so it won't be dribbling out of the tap is what I'm saying, but it's not going to be like spraying off your car like you would at home. Okay, it'll be somewhere in the middle. I love
how Adam, I'm sorry, but I got to throw you under the bus. You didn't even ask a question. You just made a statement.
Yeah, he just made a statement, and then he was basically like, hey, I just told you you're an idiot. Why didn't you like agree with me?
Adam, thanks for
yes,
being
Tom.
here.
Plans for my small round end table are available, right? We put them on the Makers. They're on the Makers Mob.
That would be if you can't find them on the site, it's for sure in the joinery challenge. That was the 6-week joinery challenge and final project, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely in there, 100%. And tutorials, full tutorials. And if you want to join the Makers Mob, click the link in the description. Bam. Thanks for transitioning us there, Tom.
We teach you how to do awesome woodwork if you're into that. Seems like most people just want to watch people woodwork, though.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Hey, what's going on? Is that?
What's Jonathan?
Hey, Jonathan. Oh, he can't hear me. You're wearing earbuds.
You can't hear me. I'm wearing earbuds. God, wake up.
You can see Jonathan highlighted in Jesse's last video. He was doing some work up there at the property.
No, he wasn't.
In the last video, he was.
That was Miles.
Miles
Gillespie, yeah.
I thought Jonathan was up there with you.
No, he's coming up this weekend. He's going to drop a huge tree for me.
Are you kidding me? I didn't even. I thought I'm like, oh, there's. Anyways, we can talk.
About Miles. He had a man bun. Jonathan doesn't have a man bun.
Where have I been?
Get with the times.
I know. Vincent says, next workshop, how are we going to get everybody to the lake property?
Good question, Vince.
A barge. You have a barge.
I'm not going to talk. If our prime minister would open the border, I don't think it would be any problem. You guys could just drive up, fly up, whatever. And I got the skiff. Dude, that thing is so awesome on the water. My skiff, like, I could not be happier with that boat. It is like a Cadillac on the water. It's like a dock that does 25, 30 knots. It's so like 3 foot waves, rollers from other boat. It's just like just skips right over top of them. Like nothing rocks that thing. I had a couple of buddies out there and they were sitting in their Tommy Bahamas chairs and we were just plowing over the 2-foot chop and just floating like a butterfly. It was beautiful. And so that boat, I could put probably 20 people on that boat and it wouldn't even be tippy. So it's super stable and can handle a ton of weight. So there's no problem getting everybody out to the property. The question is getting people over the border with our nitwit commander, Justin Tardo, not letting anyone over because, people aren't vaccinated.
We're not getting into it.
It's just ridiculous. So, yeah, it'd be great. It'd be great if we could, the wood ninja's on fire tonight.
For those of you who don't know.
You really should bring him back. You should do at least another video now.
It would be completely different now. would be completely different. You've changed personas since then.
Have I?
You were
that like smug, cocky douchebag woodworker, aren't I?
You were exaggerating that back then.
Yeah, I was a little over the top, but I'm still pretty over the top in certain areas. I'm thinking about removing the filter.
Oh,
I'm thinking about it. Like Jesse in his full form peeks out every once in a while, but then I always dial it back because I go, "Oh, someone's gonna cancel me."
Like JP Sears or whatever.
I'm thinking where I'm just like, I think I'm really just gonna start sharing how I really feel because I really don't give a shit what people think.
There you go.
And so it's just a matter of, do I want to deal with all the snowflakes that have somehow found their way to watching my stuff, and then when they actually hear what I think, they're like, Bobby. So in that sense, I'm like, I don't even really want to deal with that, but I'm like, I don't read the comments anyway, so it's like, I think I might just let it loose.
Yeah.
Just let the beast loose.
I have to answer Mr. Faw because he's asking that question about the hinges for the cabinets. Just one more yeah, so 3mm is typically like 2.5 to 3mm is from the edge to the start of the hole. So your to the center point is probably more like 22.5. But yeah, all the hinges will have specs that you can look at to get the right measurements for that specific hardware. So there's Jonathan.
In perfect form. The shirtless chiseled wonder.
Yeah. There's so many questions here, guys. We're going to just pick a couple more. If we don't get to it, I'm really sorry. Lyle, member of the Makers Mob, he's got a question here.
When you cut the through Morse 10 on the bench with wedge vessel? Ooh, making up words, are we? I like a good wedge vessel myself. Like 3/4 inch. Did you drill a full 3/4 then pair? I always drill undersize, Lyle. So yeah, I typically will do at least a 16th undersize or an 8th undersize and then chisel out, because that obviously just leaves you a bit of wiggle room if your drill isn't perfectly straight. And then I usually try and come from both sides if it's a long through shot and I know that the chisel or the drill might drift a fair bit. I'll try and meet in the middle, come from both sides, and then chisel accordingly.
On the chisel topic,
it's a difficult thing to get Japanese planes and chisels, but I've got 2 members in our online Facebook group. So if you join the Makers Mob, you can find them, but you can also find them on Facebook if you're like, I'm not gonna join a monthly subscription woodworking thing. I get it. Some people are just not into that, and they'd rather fart around on the internet for like 5 days trying to find what they're looking for. So yeah, there's a couple guys on Facebook. The corner or the Nomi shop, and then there's the little Cornish Nomi shop. So Nomi is chisel in Japan. So Nomi. So if you look them up on Facebook, there's also a couple Japanese tools. So there's like Japanese tools and woodworking. If you punch that in on Facebook, there's a couple groups that really geek out on that sort of stuff, and there's some people in those groups that import tools directly from the Japanese blacksmiths, and so you can access them. So 2 of those guys are in our Facebook Makers Mob group, and so you can just post questions like, hey, I'm looking for this size chisel or a hand plane or whatever, and then they'll jump on and be like, oh, I've got those in stock. So one guy lives out in Ottawa. He's a Canadian guy. And then the other guy is an actual American, but lives in Japan, works in a chisel tool shop there, and then also like sells used Japanese chisels and planes on the side, like through some online shops. So yeah, there's a couple guys that you can get online. There's a few different online tool shops. There's Hida Tool, HIDA, and then IDA Tool, IIDA. Those are also sources for Japanese tools. But yeah, you got to know what you're looking for. And so I always go through the guys that are in our Makers Mob group because they know the tools, they know the makers, they know the steel, and it's a whole different world. So you need a lot of information on what you're getting to know exactly what you're getting, right?
I'm actually, before we get to this question, I'm actually in the process. I've been chatting with Simon, who's in Japan. Right?
Yeah, Simon's one of the guys. Simon Scullion and Andrew Wren.
So Simon and I have been chatting about trying to figure out a live where he's actually going to do like a walkthrough of the factory and chisels and kind of do that.
That'd be super cool.
Which we'll pull you in on too, Jesse, so you can kind of geek out with him on that. So we're just trying to. It's just tough with the time difference and his work schedule and that to line up something that's convenient here too. But we'll get it sorted out.
Yeah, I should do a little wake surfing on the skiff, eh? The skiff kicks out a pretty decent wake. It's not like a wake. I don't know if it's surfable, but I get definitely enough speed that you could like tube or wakeboard behind the skiff.
Only one way to find out.
I know, I should try it. But it's such a, like, it's a flat bottom boat, right? So when you get it up to speed, it doesn't really kick out too much wake. But at lower speeds, it does move a fair bit of water.
Last question. When does Jesse buy a captain's hat and smoke his pipe?
I was thinking about that. Know what I'm actually going to do? Because the skiff looks so badass on the water. It's like this, I ground it with like a flap disc, right? So it's just this raw aluminum kind of like sanded look. So the hull is this big, bright silver hull, right? And it's such a big boat. And then the bow kind of comes up out of the water. Me and my buddy Drew, or if Drew's not into it, when we take it out of the water for the 20-hour service, I'm going to give it like a World War II fighter plane paint job with the shark mouth on the front.
Wow.
You know how the old fighter planes had the shark mouth with the eye, and then like the cool like star, like checkered stripe in the back.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm totally doing that on either side of the skiff. So I'll just be like the crazy skookum choocher coming down the lake with the big shark mouth skiff. Like people are gonna be like, what the hell is that boat? So it's gonna look badass.
Drew would be awesome at.
Yeah, I know. I was like, help me paint this thing up. And like we could just get a bunch of tape out and make our own like big shark mouth on either side, like, and it would just look badass. And then we'd have to mount a machine gun on the top or something like that. A prop, obviously.
But, I mean, yeah. Harpoon gun. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. If you missed it at the very beginning, you can watch it again and get Jesse's insight on brain freezes and Slurpees.
Yeah. Hey.
Very important.
Cheers to paper straws. The greatest idea the left has had ever.
We're not going political. We're not going political. Anyways, thanks guys for joining us. If you're in Canada, happy Canada Day. It's a bit of a weird one this year with everything that's been going on in the country, but we're also not getting into that. Have a great rest of your evening, and we will see you on a live again. And we're going to do another one in 2 weeks. So not next week, but the next week after that. So, oh yeah. And 2 more things. If you want to see Jesse's next YouTube video, look out for that tomorrow. And if you want to join the Makers Mob, click the link in the description.
We're having a great time.
Yeah.
Join the party.
There you go. All right. Have a good night, everyone. We'll talk to you guys later.
Goodbye, interweb.
Wood Ninja out.